Yes, the afterlife does exist. In this video, we'll explore 3 real cases of near-death experiences. Some people believe in them, others dismiss them as nothing more than brain activity. There are many different ways to interpret these experiences. Dr. Jeffrey Long, author of Evidence of the Afterlife, founded the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation in 1998 and has collected cases from around the world. After analyzing more than 1,300 near-death experiences, he presents compelling evidence that the afterlife does exist. For example, according to Dr. Long's research, 74.4% of people reported seeing in a full 360-degree field of view. Many described instant understanding without any thought process, along with vivid, intensified colors and heightened awareness. 66.5% experienced changes in their sense of time and space. 50% reported leaving their bodies and observing their physical condition. 14% experienced a life review reliving not only their own emotions, but also the feelings of others they had encountered. 13% reported meeting deceased family members or relatives. And 73.1% said their lives fundamentally changed after the near-death experience. What's remarkable is that these patterns appear consistently across different religions, cultures, and regions around the world. In addition to these findings, numerous other phenomena have been documented, leading Dr. Long to conclude that the afterlife, or a life beyond this world, exists for real. In this video, we'll introduce 3 of these extraordinary experiences. These rare experiences of encountering the afterlife and returning may provide valuable insights into how we live our lives. Tsuruhiko Kiuchi. Kiuchi worked for the Japan Air Self-Defense Force in his 20s. He collapsed from extreme stress and had a near-death experience. He crossed the river Styx and was guided through a field of flowers by his deceased aunt before returning to his hospital room. As he regained consciousness and reached for the nurse call button, his heart suddenly stopped, and he thought, "Oh, my heart just stopped." That's when he had his second near-death experience. Seeing his mother leaning over him, he tried to say, "I'm okay," but instead passed right through her. When he turned around, he saw his own body lying in the bed. He tried to reassure his father, then suddenly found himself completely inside his father's body. "I'm okay," he said, and in that moment, he was able to leave his father's body. "Where's my mother?" he wondered. The instant that thought crossed his mind, Kiuchi suddenly found himself standing beside her. She was in the middle of calling his older brother, but she was so shaken that she couldn't even dial the number. No matter how many times Kiuchi tried to whisper the number in her ear, she couldn't hear his voice. Next, he thought of his brother, and just like that, he was suddenly beside him driving toward the hospital. Maybe I can even move through time. Then he thought, I want to identify the mysterious voice I heard when I was 6. One day, suddenly he heard, "Watch out!" He turned, spotted a rock rolling right at them, and reacted instantly, tackling his sister out of the way. They barely missed being hit, but in the process, she tore off her thumbnail. Later, their older brother scolded him. He kept insisting he'd heard a voice, but no one believed him because there was no one there. Transcending 20 years, Kiuchi was there, watching his younger self. Then, the moment came. A rock loosened, heading straight for his sister. "Watch out!" His spirit screamed out loud. His 6-year-old self heard it, turned, and pushed her aside. The mysterious voice he couldn't explain for 20 years was actually his own. It's a real-life interstellar moment. Back in his hospital room, Kiuchi wondered, can I travel to the future too? He focused his mind on it, and suddenly, a vision appeared. He saw himself in his 40s, standing in a vast traditional hall decorated with hanging scrolls, speaking to a group of young people about the Earth's environment. As he focused further, 2 images overlapped. An older self on a ruined mountain, another gazing at the stars in lush greenery. By the stars, he realized the 2 scenes were happening at the same time and place. He was witnessing a future that had not yet been decided. When he thought of space, he went to space. When he thought of the ancient Earth, he could even go to the ancient Earth. After what felt like an eternity, he finally returned to his hospital room. As his spirit leaned down toward the face of his physical body lying in bed, he was drawn back inside. He regained consciousness. Believe it or not, only 30 minutes had passed from the moment his heart stopped to the moment he regained consciousness. 20 years after his near-death experience, in October 1994, Kiuchi was invited to speak at a forum for young people. When he arrived at the venue, he froze in disbelief. It was the exact same hall in his vision 2 decades ago, right down to the same hanging scrolls in that vast traditional room. The vision of the future he was shown during his near-death experience had finally become a reality. Next is Angie Fenimore, who wrote Beyond the Darkness. Now, let's look at the story of Angie Fenimore, who experienced hell during her near-death journey. At the age of 27, Angie tried to take her own life by overdosing on medication. Drifting away, she was pulled into a warm, glowing tunnel. There, she found herself reliving the very moment of her birth. She felt her mother's labor pains, yet she also felt her mother's overwhelming joy from 27 years ago. It was a deeply comforting, almost overwhelming sense of love. When she was pushed out of the tunnel, Angie found herself in her mother's arms. Then, a large screen appeared in front of her. Her entire life began to play out like a movie. She was shocked. As she watched the slideshow, she didn't just feel her own past emotions, she also felt other people's feelings in vivid detail. She realized how much love her young parents had given her, and it hit her hard. It was the complete opposite of what she had always believed, that she had not been loved. In reality, as a young child, she had been surrounded by her parents' love and a profound sense of security. The darker period of her life after childhood also appeared on the screen. From the second she was born to the moment she lay dying on her sofa, she relived all 27 years of her life in what felt like a heartbeat. As the images of her life faded, Angie found herself adrift in the darkness. No matter how hard she looked, she couldn't see anyone. She had always believed that when you die, you go to heaven, but this was an endless darkness. Somehow, she knew this was hell. People of all ages were there, wearing dirty robes. They were all souls who, like Angie, had taken their own lives. Nearby, a middle-aged woman kept whispering to herself, "It wasn't my fault. I did nothing wrong." Before long, Angie felt herself trapped in a lonely darkness, lost in a despair beyond words. Then suddenly she heard, "Is this what you really want?" A voice of awesome power broke the silence. At first, there was only a pinpoint of light, but with every word it grew larger, shining as bright and radiant as the sun. In the center of that light, she saw a man in a robe of pure white. As Angie looked at this overwhelming sacred light, she felt, "That is God the Father. I am unconditionally loved. I am a child of God." She was filled with a deep sense of warmth, but the people around her didn't seem to notice God at all. Angie said to God, "My life was so hard." And God replied, "You think that was hard? It is nothing compared to what awaits you if you take your life." Then Angie sensed another presence. It was a light of love that seemed to embrace everything. It was a presence as deep and pure as God the Father himself, filled with a compassion so profound and sincere that it seemed to mourn her pain. Angie realized she was in the presence of Jesus Christ. The love of Jesus Christ surrounded Angie and washed away the feeling that had stayed in her heart that she was worthless. Then she was shown something more. She saw her children, their lives broken, and their paths cut short by her suicide. She also saw the suffering it would cause her husband, her sister, and others close to her, even people she had never met. In this hell, you come to understand the weight of your actions and you must face them. God spoke to her. As she realized how much harm she had caused to others, Angie was filled with deep sorrow. She thought, "My heart was already in a hell of its own before I died." The way we live in this world is directly connected to where we go after death. What surprised Angie was, in the spiritual world, as your heart changes, the world around you changes with it. As her awareness changed and her heart opened to the divine light, the darkness around her began to fade. She found herself in the realm of the scurrying spirits of light. She was no longer in hell. She was standing in a world of pure light. Then, a rushing sensation engulfed her. The darkness vanished, and in an instant, she was back inside her own body, lying on the sofa. As soon as she took a breath, her body felt heavy, her stomach ached, her head was spinning. But inside, her heart was overflowing with gratitude. Through this near-death experience, Angie felt as if she had been reborn. Every morning when she wakes up, she feels deep happiness just to have another chance at life. Even the deepest despair can be turned into hope. She carries it with a grateful heart. What these two experiences have in common is that through their near-death experiences, They came to believe that the afterlife exists and that we are spiritual beings. In Ryuho Okawa's book, My Visit to Hell, he explains that there is a heavenly and a hellish way of life in this world. Whether you will go to heaven or hell in the afterlife is already determined by the state of mind you have in this world. This is exactly what Angie came to realize through her experience. So then, how should we live? Many of you may be wondering. To explore this, let's look at a third near-death experience. The remarkable story of Dannion Brinkley offers us a clear guide. It happened in September 1975 when Dannion was 25 years old. He was on the phone when lightning struck. The metal on his shoes melted into the floor, smoke rising from his feet, and the receiver melted in his hand. He was watching it all from above. The moment the lightning struck, his soul had already left his body. The paramedic placed a stethoscope on his chest, then told his wife, "He's gone," and covered his face with a sheet. From above, Dannion looked ahead of the ambulance and saw a small black dot. It began to grow, forming into a tunnel that soon surrounded him, and as he was enveloped by a being of light, his life review began. Throughout his childhood, Dannion was constantly fighting and bullying others. He found himself inside the people he had hurt and experienced their suffering. From inside them, he felt the pain and the humiliation. Every fight he had ever been in, 6,000 of them, he experienced again from the other side. Then, after a certain turning point, Dannion began to feel not only his own emotions and those of the other person, but also the feelings of others connected to the event. For example, when Dannion was deployed and shot an enemy colonel, he entered the colonel's body and felt his sorrow. "I will never be able to go home again." At the same time, he felt the grief of the family who had lost the head of their household. During his time in service, he experienced the suffering of those who died, as well as the sorrow their families endured. Although he only transported weapons to a country in Central America during his life review, he was shown the very places where those weapons were used. Dannion stayed with the weapons and watched as what they had done. Children crying out in pain after losing their fathers, their grief, their suffering, and the deep anguish of their families. When the life review came to an end, Dannion was overwhelmed with shame. He felt selfish, never once reached out to help someone. How much love had I given people, and how much had I taken from them? When he looked back, more than 95% he had only taken. I should have reached out more. If I had understood this, I could have made my life so much better. He spoke these words to the being of light. But I'm dead already. The realization hit him again. Dannion was guided by the being of light and began to rise. Soon, deep blue mountains came into view. Dannion was flying like an angel. Then he descended into a city of great cathedrals. He stepped inside a crystal cathedral and found himself sitting on a long bench. When he looked ahead, 13 beings of light stood side by side. As each one came closer, a box appeared from within their chest, opening gently before his eyes. Each time a box came closer, he was shown visions of the future: nuclear disaster, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and Operation Desert Storm, the Gulf War. He witnessed 117 events in the boxes. The beings of light told him these events were not yet decided. Additionally, they told him, "You will establish centers to help ease people's stress. This is what you are to do back on Earth." Then he was shown a vision of the 7 rooms within these centers. "It is time for you to return to Earth," they told him. But the spiritual realm was so beautiful, so peaceful. Dannion did not want to go back. And yet, he had no choice. When he realized, Dannion was floating above a hospital corridor. His body was being taken to the morgue. He could feel the love and prayers of the family and friends. Love and prayer. They really can give life. That's what he felt. The next instant, he was looking up at a sheet. The moment he returned to his body, he was struck by intense pain. He couldn't move at all. He somehow managed to breathe against the sheet. A nurse noticed, rushed over, and began emergency treatment, and Dannion was brought back to life. Even after he was brought back to life, about 30% of his heart had been damaged, so for a while, he couldn't move his body the way he wanted. As his body slowly began to recover, Dannion started volunteering at hospices and nursing homes outside of his work. Still not fully healed, 14 years after his near-death experience, Dannion went through a second near-death experience during heart surgery. Once again, he was wrapped in the wings of the same being of light and began to relive his life. The first 25 years were painful to watch, but the 14 years that followed were the life of a man reborn. The good he had done, day by day, came back to him. Some were big moments. Others were small, quiet ones. At the nursing home, he quietly took care of even the smallest tasks. Combing someone's hair, helping them stand up, doing the work no one else wanted to do without a word. At the hospice, he spoke about his near-death experience, easing the fears of those nearing the end of life. There were moments when he stayed by a patient's side, right until the very end. And in those moments, he could feel not only his own emotions, but those of others as well. One day, he was helping care for an elderly woman who could barely move at all. While the nurses were changing the sheets, he lifted her gently into his arms and walked with her through the building, hoping to give her a different view, if only for a moment. "Thank you for lifting me." He could feel her gratitude. In this second life review, his acts of kindness rose up like fireworks. Dannion thought, "I want to stay here, just as I am." But the being of light told him, "You have to go back again." From a world as beautiful as the Swiss Alps, in the next instant, Dannion found himself back in his body. After coming back to life once again, Dannion made a decision. As long as I live, I want to help people pass on peacefully. With that wish, he built a hospice. Through his near-death experiences, Dannion lived through two life reviews, one of a life where he had taken from others, and another where he had lived for others, bringing them comfort and care. We will most likely experience these life reviews when we return to the other side. If, like Dannion, we could come to know this in advance, we would choose not to take, but live a life of giving love, and our lives would become something far more beautiful. In this video, we have shared 3 near-death experiences. These near-death experiences, which are occurring in every part of the world, are actually planned by high spirits in the other world. They help these events happen to teach us that souls in the other world really do exist. A film that brings this kind of spiritual world to life, as experienced in these near-death stories, is Dragonheart Adventures Beyond This World, now available on demand.
Who are you?
Here is what you're going to do. You will go explore the spirit world.
Is this really the spirit world?
Well, maybe it's hell.
By exploring it, you might discover what it was that you were meant to do in your life. And if you are successful in this, I will return you to your world.
Who knew there were so many kinds of hell?
There are as many hells out there as there are mistaken minds. Can you guess the percentage of people who fall into hell every day in the modern age?
Help me.
Help me.
Help me.
We ended up seeing so many souls in agony. Dragon, please come and help me. Dragon!
The spiritual world depicted in the film is the true world of the afterlife, based on the spiritual investigations and experiences of Ryuho Okawa. From the modern hells to the unknown world, this is a new kind of spiritual adventure film that makes you feel as if you've truly journeyed through the spirit world. If you'd like to explore more, we invite you to experience the film for yourself. You can find the link in the description below.
Dragonheart Adventures Beyond This World.